This video is the beginning of a series of videos on epithelium, one of the four major tissues. This video discusses the categories of epithelium. Before we look at the categories, I'd like to talk about the origin of the term epithelium. Where did this word come from? And does it make any sense? Well, the prefix epi is associated with being on top of, or the surface of. So that prefix makes perfect sense and is useful to know. But the thelium comes from the stem word theli, that means nipple. Yes, that's what I thought also. The word originated with a Dutch anatomist and botanist, Frederick Rausch, from the 17th and 18th century, who was a master embalmer. He was looking at the lip of a cadaver and noticed translucent bumps on the lip under microscopic examination. He fancied these bumps as resembling nipples. I guess he's another example of a sexually frustrated scientist. With that bit of trivia out of the way, we can turn to consideration of the categories of epithelium. Form follows function is a quote from an architect that I think readily applies to nature and anatomy in particular. In other words, to understand the structure of anatomy, it's important to understand what function is being served by that structure. With this important concept in mind, let's look at the categories of epithelium. Here is an illustration of 7 of the 8 possible types of epithelia. 2 basic characteristics create this grid of classification. First, the number of layers of cells that form the epithelium. For classification purposes, there are only 2 possibilities. Either there is only 1 layer of cells, or there is more than 1 layer of cells. If there is only 1 layer of cells, the epithelium is classified as simple. The second characteristic is the shape of the cells on the surface. There are 3 possibilities. First, the cells might be flat, like the tile on the surface of a floor. However, the word flat is not used. It would be too simple and straightforward. Instead, we refer to these flat cells as being squamous. The word comes from the Latin word squama, which means scale, like a fish scale, for example, which of course is flat. The cells with a higher profile have a cube-like shape, and these cells are referred to as cuboidal, or cube-like. Finally, if the cells are taller than they are wide, like columns, these cells are called columnar. In summary, there are 3 basic kinds of simple epithelium: simple squamous, simple cuboidal, and simple columnar. Returning to the dictum that form follows function, what is the significance of having a lining or surface consisting of only a single layer of cells? A single layer of cells is going to be less durable, more susceptible to wear and tear. But on the other hand, this type of epithelium will more easily permit the movement of substances across it. Substances may move across cell membranes by either passive or active means. For example, gases such as oxygen and carbon dioxide can flow across by simple diffusion, which does not require energy. Other substances, such as electrolytes, may require the expenditure of energy to move across the membrane. Energy production in a cell is predominantly associated with mitochondria and the various organelles that are associated with the production of proteins. The point I am trying to make is that when you need to move substances across the epithelium by active means, you need more of the cellular machinery that achieves this function, and these organelles take up space. Hence, the cells need to be bigger to accommodate this function. Hence, form follows function. This might be too abstract. We need a couple of examples. You have a simple squamous epithelium lining the endothelium of capillaries. Across this epithelium, the passive diffusion of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide in particular, is of the utmost importance, and the flat profile of these cells facilitates this passive movement. On the other hand, the lining of the small intestines consists of simple columnar epithelium. These tall columnar cells provide the space to hold the mitochondria and all the other organelles that are needed to provide the energy and machinery for active transport. This epithelium rapidly absorbs nutrients into the body by active transport. When the epithelium has more than one layer, it is called stratified. In this illustration, we see three examples of stratified epithelium: stratified squamous, stratified cuboidal, and transitional, which is a special kind of epithelium. Also in the row of stratified epithelium, there is pseudostratified epithelium, which, as its name implies, is not really stratified. But first, let's talk about why there is more than one layer in the epithelium. More than one layer of cells provides more strength, more resistance to wear and tear, and greater durability. Stratified epithelium is found in the skin, in the mucous membrane of the mouth, and lining ducts that are exposed to shearing forces. The second term in the name comes from the type of cell found on the surface of the epithelium. Here is stratified squamous epithelium, with the uppermost cells being flat, and stratified cuboidal, with the surface cells being cube-shaped. There is such a thing as stratified columnar epithelium, but it is found in only a few places in the body, and I don't consider it very significant from a functional point of view. So its absence in this illustration is somewhat appropriate. Pseudostratified columnar epithelium is shown in a way that illustrates why it is falsely layered. The most noticeable thing in these cells are the nuclei, and the nuclei appear to be located at different levels in the epithelium. This gives the appearance of there being two layers. However, if a layer is defined as being directly attached to the underlying connective tissue, we find that all the cells, even those that don't make it to the surface, are attached, and hence there is really only one layer of cells. This illustration is very misleading because pseudostratified columnar epithelium is found predominantly in the lining of the respiratory system, where it is always ciliated. This type of epithelium is sometimes called respiratory epithelium. So where are the cilia? They should be on the surface. Here is another drawing of this epithelium with the cilia depicted. For this reason, this epithelium is properly called pseudostratified ciliated columnar epithelium, a term students love to memorize. When I was teaching, I allowed my students to use the acronym, which is much easier to remember. The acronym is PCCE. Fortunately, this epithelium is commonly referred to by this acronym. Finally, let's deal with the highly specialized epithelium that doesn't fit so nicely into our classification grid, transitional epithelium. Here is another illustration of this epithelium, which I prefer to use. The number of layers of cells is not as important as the nature of the cells on the surface. Notice that the cells on the surface appear somewhat cuboidal and rather plump. You can call these cells cuboidal, but when the epithelium is stretched, the cells are designed to accommodate this stretching by flattening out and becoming more squamous. Hence, depending upon whether the epithelium is stretched or not, the epithelium undergoes transitions in its appearance. Hence, the name transitional epithelium. The plump cells on the surface of the unstretched epithelium are unique in being impermeable to the passive flow of substances, including water. and this impermeability is maintained when the epithelium is stretched. The curved appearance of the epithelium in the unstretched condition has given rise to the name of umbrella cells for these special cells. So where is this specialized epithelium found? It is found lining the mucous membranes of the urinary system, where the membrane undergoes stretching as urine accumulates prior to evacuation. If this epithelium did not maintain its impermeability while being stretched, the work done in producing a concentrated or dilute urine would be lost as water flowed across the epithelium. Because this epithelium is only found associated with the urinary system, it is also called urothelium. Well, this ends this video. I will produce some more on the epithelium, talk about its characteristics, and also look at structures associated with the epithelium, and finally look at actual histomicrographs. If you find my channel useful, please subscribe and like, and let any fellow students know that my channel exists. So until next time.